Hey everybody, I'm Yvonne Williams with Back to Earth Creations, and in today's video I'm going to be making a big wire wrapped like sun catcher or window charm, or I don't know what you want to call it, but I hope it's going to be pretty. And this is actually a wire wrapping challenge that was presented to me by my friend Jim. He sent me this beautiful piece of amber to wrap, and so I think I'm going to kind of layer around like this and then have like a wire tree with also amber leaves kind of coming up. I don't know. I have some paper here. I am going to kind of sketch out an idea, which is unlike me. Like, I normally don't do that. I normally just go for it. But I think I want to put some planning into this one and see what happens. So we're going to get the camera turned around for you guys. Before we get started though, all of the tools and materials, as best of a link as I can find, will be down in the video description below. So if you are interested in what kind of pliers I'm using or where I get my beads from or anything like that, please go down and click the view more button. I'm not sure how it is if you're viewing on a computer, a tablet, or a phone, but it will be there down like between the video and the comments. It'll be somewhere. So hopefully that will help you guys with that. So let's get started. So here I've drawn out the design, and I'm going to be using a 16 gauge bright aluminum wrapped with a 26 gauge copper core wire from parawire.com, and this is vintage bronze colored. That's not real particularly important though. You could use whatever color that you like, but I would use a 26 or even a 28 gauge because there's going to be a lot of weaving here, and it can get pretty hard on the hands after a while if you're using a 24 or even a 22 gauge wire. And so I'm going to give myself a good bit of wire extra, like maybe 6 inches extra in length overall. And that will give me something that if I decide to do something fancy, squiggles or something off the end, that it'll give me the freedom to do that. So I'm just measuring around. And so let's see, looks like this is about 22 inches long, and I'm going to use my wire snips and just cut it, and I'm going to pull off 5 sections of this 22 gauge wire, and then I will start weaving it with the 26 gauge. So I'll meet you guys back here after I get this wire snipped with the weaving wire. So I have pulled off a double arm span, and that's, I pull the wire until my full arm span, so that's about 5 feet, and I did that twice, so 10 feet of wire, or whatever. I'm probably going to end up having to splice more in, and I'm battling the cats today, but I found the middle of the weaving wire, and then I'm finding the middle of one of our 16 gauge wires, and bracing it with my thumb. I'm actually going to wrap 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cat 5 rotations, and I'm just going to tidy this wire down in a little tighter. Let me zoom in for you so you can see what we're doing here. But yeah, just get everything nice and snug. I really like using the vintage bronze when paired with the bright aluminum because the contrast between the darker brown and the bright silver is very nice, I think. So now I'm going to add in another 16 gauge wire. Again, trying to make it nice and centered up so you can line the ends up a bit. You could have them staggered. And I'm going to do 2 rotations. So there's 1 and 2. Around those 2. I'm going to add in another 16 gauge wire. This is probably one of my favorite weaving patterns, and so I've added in the new one, so I'm going to wrap around that one and the one previous. So there's 1, and it can be a little hard to fit that weaving wire in between, But just be patient and gentle with yourself and the wire. Kind of squish it down in there. And with this bright aluminum, it's very soft, so it's going to want to bend around a little bit and stuff, but that'll happen. It's okay. If you keep straightening it as you go, you'll have less of a problem with it. So there we go. I actually like to force them open a little bit and give it a little bit more space. So I'm going to add in another 16 gauge wire. And do 2 rotations. So there's 1. Sorry, I didn't mean to go out of frame. And 2. There we are. You can see how that kind of stacks. And I'm going to add in our 5th and final wire. Really open that up. I want to make it a little easier to get in there. So there's 1 and 2. And now I'm going to do the reduction. We've climbed all the way this way. I'm going to climb back up. So I'm going to come in between our 5th and 4th wire. Pull that wire all the way through. And I could come through right here like how I just did and then wrap once and twice around. Or I could bring the wire back through and come down 3. So there's 1, 2, 3. And then come back up to harness around the 2. You'll get different effects on the back of your wire, and I'll show you that whenever we've woven a bit more, but you can experiment for yourself and kind of see which one you prefer, because if you wanted to make a reversible pendant, that's definitely something to keep in mind. But if this is your first intricate wire wrapping pattern, you might not want to worry about it. So I've woven around wires 3 and 4. So now I'm going to come in between wires 1 and 2. Just like that. Pull it through. And then come between wires 3 and 4 again. And see how that kind of just happens like that. And then repeat that same weaving pattern that we just did. And now I'm going to wrap around wires 1 and 2. Again, giving myself some space. This wire keeps wanting to bite into the softer aluminum wire, but that's one of the struggles that I just kind of deal with at the expense of wanting to use the thicker, softer wire. So that's giving us a really nice kind of zigzag. So let's see if we can't squish that in just a little tighter. And I really like the way that that looks with it very nice and snug. And so now from here we have the option that we could do 5 repetitions of the coiling around one wire, or we could go right back into weaving that same pattern. I'm going to do 5 wraps and then I'm going to repeat the pattern, and I'm going to do this kind of all the way around, so at least 6 inches. So I'm going to be doing that off camera, and then I'll meet y'all right back here to start on the other side. So I've woven quite a bit now on one side. You can see right in here actually I spliced in a little bit more wire. Again, I'm going to zoom so that you guys can see. But yeah, spliced in a little bit more wire right there. And then I'm continuing on with the weave. You can see over here it's getting pretty bent and stuff, but this is a softer wire, so that's okay. And it's still very flexible. But before I do too much work, I wanted to show you guys, this is a flexible ruler, which this comes in really handy for measuring around things like this. So I can just come around. It has inches and centimeters. And again, I'm just trying to get a rough estimate, but it looks like I need 8 inches of design on each side. You could, if you don't have this tool, just use a piece of string or a piece of wire and kind of, you know, measure it out roughly, then pick it up, hold it out. Yeah, about 8 inches. And so far I am at 5.5. So we're getting there, but I am going to continue weaving until I have the full 16 inches. And I actually think I'm gonna start at just 15 because I'd rather have to add a little bit more than be like, uh-oh, I did too much. So again, this is how the weave is looking. And by doing it the way that I have been, there's a little bit of a stagger effect on the back. It'll still look nice in reverse, but again, just do however you feel inspired to. But I'm not being too particular about it. I'm, you know, having conversations and watching YouTube videos and stuff while I work on this. So I'm not too torn up about it if I vary from the pattern a little bit, so long as it all looks the same on the front. But like, even now looking at it, I can't really pick out. There's a little bit of a variation there, you know, just in how, whether I'm coming back through right here and then traveling back, you know, so coming out between wires 4 and 5 and then wrapping that way, as opposed to coming in between here and wrapping down. Again, it's such a fine detail that it's like, I don't think we really need to worry too much about it. But if you're the type that you like to fixate on details like that, then by all means try your best to be as consistent as possible. Again, this piece is for you, so do it how makes you happy. If you'd rather not just have the headache of it, then get a little wild with it and see what happens. So yeah, I'm going to continue weaving for 10 more inches, and then I'll meet you all right back here. So I have finished up my rotations of weaving, so that is quite a bit of wire, and my hands are pretty sore. But I'm using up the rest of this wire on here by just making coils around this edge wire, whichever one you end up on. Sorry also for, we've got laundry going in the background, so if you hear my washing machine, hashtag home studio. Like, I guess, I don't know, like, I'm super professional right now, you guys. So, and also we're leaving for a convention this weekend, so we need to get all of our laundry and everything done before going, 'cause I like coming home to all the laundry washed and put away. But anyways, so I'm just coiling it around, and you can see, I can actually zoom in a bit more for you if you like. I can just squish it down, make it nice and condensed, but I'm just coiling that around. And now the next step that we'll be coming to is going to be shaping it around our frame and our amber stone. Okay, let me get this cinched down, that way we don't have any loose ends. And I'm compressing it down the rest of the way. Nice and smoosh. Okay. There we are. If you ever have any problems with it being like all bent out of shape, just gently kind of encourage it back to how you'd like it to be. Now I want it oriented like this, with the little triangles kind of pointing outward. And I'm lining it up against the edge of my desk where I have a ruler marked out. I'm finding our halfway mark, which is actually right here. You could also count the repetitions, but I'm just going to use my ruler. And very gently now, probably should have put a bend in this whenever I was weaving it. So I'm actually just going to bend like that. And now we can get a little bit like this happening, just flatten it out. Because I want this to be sort of three-dimensional, because you can see with the depth here of our amber piece, I think it'll hold really nicely. And I want to give it a very gradual curve around to the front there. Or try to. This really, it would have been a much better idea for me to try to do this while weaving it. But, curse you, hindsight. Okay. But yeah, so we've got a nice little shape going on there. And so now, the next step, oh boy. The idea here is using the 26 gauge to do the weaving. I should be able to very comfortably fit 28 gauge wire in between these base wires, the silver toned wire that we used, and then also 28 gauge in between here. But really though, it shouldn't even be too hard for us to fit some 26 gauge wire. That fits through very easily. Just like that. Let me turn it so that you can kind of see. Just fits right through. And it fits right through. But we will have a much easier time using 26 gauge. So I think I'm going to use the 26 gauge. Or, sorry, 28 gauge. The thinner wire. Oh boy. Okay, so now with this sitting there like that, can kind of see the way that that's going to be shaped around. And it would be really helpful if I had something round like this burning candle. That would have been better if it weren't on fire, but I'm kind of using it as a sense of time passage. I only have it burning while I'm working on this piece, And so that way you can kind of tell. I don't know, it was just a fun little experiment to see, you know, how much of the midnight oil am I burning making this piece. But I'm just using that as a mandrel to shape around. And that came out round about the right size. But again, I'm going to take this curve and make it happen in a flatter way. So I'm just gently but firmly encouraging it around a bit at a time. And again, probably would have been a better idea to do this shaping while weaving instead of after finishing weaving. But you can see that gave us a really nice, gives us a nice depth too. Let me zoom back out for you. And we're going to do that same thing to this other side. So just, I mean, very incrementally, just a little here and a little there. I don't even know what that is on my, I don't know, glue or something. So I'm kind of pressing away from myself with my thumbs and then pulling in with my hands just to, again, really encourage that bit of spreading. And oh, I got some weird puckering right here. Let's see if we can't fix that. It's just all kinds of wonky. Okay. So now we have that kind of going on. That's cool though. Sorry, the cat's grunting. Is that what's happening? Okay, yeah, I really like that shape. Again, it's not quite as smooth and fluid and perfect as I would like for it to be. But these things happen and that's okay. Now we can come through also with our nylon jaw pliers and just smoosh, really kind of smush the heck out of it. And this is also a great opportunity to take it nice and flat. And just smushing, 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 smushing. And this is going to like harden the surface. It's not quite work hardening, we're externally hardening it, but it does also kind of fix and smush down all of that weaving that we've done. And I do like to get a little bit of an exaggerated curve because I found that it's easier to relax it back out than it is to have to like smoosh it back in tighter again. Now that's just a really cool shape too. Okay, so there we are. I'm not entirely certain how we're going to be joining up here at the top yet, but I do know that I want this secured within the circle, and I want this secured kind of like this, with the tree like growing up and out of it. So we'll see how that looks. Getting that opened up again. And the way that I'd like for this to be joined around is, sorry, I'm trying to talk and think at the same time, and that's hard apparently. The roots will be attaching to these points and then coming up and around and kind of binding onto the front, but it's not going to be just going over the front side. I'm going to be having the roots grow, for lack of a better term, up the back side as well. So that's actually going to be holding this amber into place And so I'm going to put it into time lapse, I believe, and try to give you a very good idea of how I'm going about it, but this is going to be quite time consuming, so keep an eye on the candle. But so let's get started with that. I'm going to be using the 28 gauge vintage bronze parawire for this. So let's do it. Okay, well, I know I said I was going to do time-lapse, but I lied to you guys. Time-lapse is for people who know what they're doing, and I don't really feel like I know what I'm doing right now, so I wanted to kind of talk this out with you guys. Now here I have about 20 inches worth of 28 gauge wire, and I have 26 of these. I might need more, but I kind of counted how many, you know, between what, here and here, how many little spaces there were going to be, and it's 13 on the front, so I was like, there's surely going to be at least that much on the back. So I'm going to start by pulling off one little 28 gauge wire. I'm going to try really hard to keep this stuff off to the side, out of the reach of the cat, so that I can keep it more or less tidy. Okay, so, and I'm going to take it and find the center mark. You can see I have these two little ends lined up. I found the center mark. Let me zoom in just a hair. I'm going to remove our plan. Blow the dog hair off the background. Okay, so now I'm going to come through with our 28 gauge wire right through there and just pull on through. Oops, bonk the tripod. And then just whip stitching. You can see this wire's coming out from the below, so I'm going to weave it through almost like I'm just making coils around. And I'm going to do, so it's 1 repetition. I'd like to do 2, possibly 3 repetitions through each little opening. Boop. Again, trying to make sure that the wires aren't crossing themselves, and coming through for 1 more. And boop. There we are. And you can see it's kind of bunching up weird on itself here. Just go a little slower and you'll avoid a lot of kinks and things that you just don't want to have to mess with. Okay, so we have our 3 little repetitions right there. And now I'm going to go through and do this. If it's sitting, if our stone is sitting like this, I'm going to do it up to this one and up to this one. This little opening and this little opening. So now I will go and do this off camera so that we can meet back here with each of these little openings with little lengths of wire coming out. It is gonna be a mess, but we got this. So I'm adding in the last wire for the roots. You can see I'm kind of having a little bit of trouble just keeping everything straight, but that's okay. So there's 1 rotation. And 2 rotations. And then keeping them kind of isolated and together. Now this 28 gauge is a very soft wire. Like very thin, very malleable. Which I think makes it really easy to work with. But a younger, less experienced version of myself might have found it immensely frustrating. So, again, just be patient. Hopefully we'll get this. So now from here, I'm going to start. You can see I was kind of positioning the stone around a little bit, smushing these side wires in just a little bit more. Make it nice and snug. I'm a little less concerned about having a perfect teardrop shape, and I want it to look maybe a balance between the geometric and the organic. So I'm going to start though down here at these 2 wires. So let me set that off to the side. Kind of set these other wires off to the sides. And now I don't want them particularly interwoven in any way. You could make a really cool like basket weave pattern, kind of coming across the stone, but I'm looking for more of an organic rooting. And I'm just going to take these 2 strands of 2 each and just start twisting them up and together a ways. So you can see how that happened. And now I'm going to come out to this one, next one out to the side, isolate it from the other wires, and oh, if I had a little tool, let's see. I'm just going to use this porcupine quill to put up right here, and this will keep me from wrapping all the way down to the base of the root, but I'm just going to put it in there and start doing this twist, which is very similar to like a twist tie motion. So there's 3 rotations, and now whenever I remove that, it gives us a little bit of space. And now I'm going to do that same thing to the next wire. Again, isolating 2 wires, like 1 segment, I guess. And I'm not going to use the same section of the porcupine quill each time. I want a little bit of natural variation here. And I can actually tuck those just off to the back, get them nice and out of the way. And so I'm gripping and twisting. And I really feel like my fingers are just kind of in the way, but you can see there, gripping and twisting. Like that. And so now I can take these 2 wires, isolated from the rest, and bring them together where they stopped being twisted. I'm just pinning it with my fingernail. And twist, twist, twist. 4 rotations. So there's that. And giving myself a little bit of space, a sense of looseness almost, is going to let me get in here with my pliers and give it some really interesting natural variations. So I'm going to take this segment that we've just woven together, and I'm going to push that through to the back. And what that's doing is it's keeping all of these pieces of wire separate from these ones that haven't yet been woven. Now I wonder if I can accomplish that same effect without using the porcupine quill. Because the more self-sufficient we can be about just using our hands for things, I feel like that kind of makes me feel a bit more, I don't know, independent. Yeah, just pinching it between my thumb and middle finger, and then twist, twist. Let me give myself like 4 or 5 rotations. There we are. And then come over to the next one. And also, it's less tools to get in the way, too. So, do however feels natural for you, though. Twist, twist, 3, 4, 5. And now from here, take these 2 segments, meet them where the twisting stopped, cross them, and twist, 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 4, 5. Not quite like that. I'm going to have it come out a little bit further though. 1, 2, 3. So that's 8. 1 more. There we are. So now, oh, I don't know, we could have them twist together. Oh, so many options that we could do. So I'm going to twist these out a little bit further. And so I could have this set, because I don't want too much exposed of the amber exposed up here at this section. Let's see. Also, do I want the tree to grow centrally, or do I want it to come up out of the side, or do I want it to come up out of this side? Let's have it grow up the side, actually. So then what we're going to do is just tuck these into the back. And now I'm going to go through. These 2 segments will be friends. These 2 segments will be friends. These 2 segments will be friends. And this one, or maybe these 3 segments will be friends. And then 2, and then 2. I think I like that. Okay. So to make it look like, or to join 3 segments of roots, Let me get this turned around. Yeah, don't ever hesitate to reorient your wire and your piece to be more comfortable for your hands. Again, trying to stay in frame and keep my hands out of the way. And so I'm just gonna 1, 2, 3, 4. Then bring this one up. 1, 2, 3, 4. Bring this one up. Oh, snagged an extra one. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I let that one sit pretty close to the, it doesn't have much of that little opening where the roots meet the edge. There we are. And coming together where the cross happens. Or cross where the twisting stops, rather. 1. And I'm just doing 1 to lock it down. Then we'll see if, oh, I'm going to have to extend this one out a bit so it'll reach. See, in just 1 twist, they still separate from each other. Whereas if I do a second, boop, it's a little bit more locked down. So it's just something to keep in mind. There we go. Okay. So yeah, now that one reaches to where the cross happens. And then 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. Pull those wires through with the rest of them. You can see how that's coming along. Now also I feel like these guys right here, this could get separated out if we wanted into, like it could branch out this way. But I don't know how much I like that. So again, it's never a bad idea to experiment, kind of try on different designs and ideas to see what you like and don't like. You never really know till you try it. So to our very first piece that we had done, I'm adding in quite a few more twists because I want this one to get squiggly. Okay. So now I'm gonna make these two be paired off. Oof. Yeah, just crazy. It's like the curly hair equivalent, like for wire, or the wire equivalent of curly hair. It's just a mess. That's alright. No, actually, we might do these ones. Ooh, I don't know. I was thinking about doing them just individually, but I'm not entirely certain how I would feel about that. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna have them paired off as friends. I like it like that. And I do apologize if my fingers are getting up in the way. It just, hopefully you get the idea. So I don't know if you can hear my wrist popping. Yay, carpal tunnel. Okay, so now I'm going to pull all the wires back out through to the front. And we can place our stone. And this way we can get a little bit of an idea of how these guys would lay over our stone. Now I'm almost thinking before we go too much further, I want our back roots to be able to join the front roots as it gets woven to help hold everything into place. So I'm going, oh, I wasn't even in frame, sorry. So I'm gonna stop here, and I'm going to flip this over, and from here, this segment to this segment, I'm going to add, same as I did to the front, some 28 gauge wire through, and then I'm going to do the exactly the same as I did to the front to join these wires to where they will grow up the back. So I'm going to do that, and I'll be right back here. You know, I just had the idea though that we could have two trees, like one growing up this side and one growing up this side. I don't know, that would be super cool, but I think just to make sure that the stone stays secure, I'm gonna have it to where it's one tree growing up. Oh, but for future Vaughn, I think I'm gonna try that. So I'm gonna do that, and I'll meet y'all right back here. So I've gotten the back to where it is nice and twisted. Let me zoom in. So you can see we've got those wires brought together. It's a pretty big mess right now. It's a pretty big jumble of wire, but we can do this. So now I want to place our stone the way it's going to be oriented. Excuse me. And I think I really like the way that the pattern of the way that excuse me, sorry. I like the way that the edge of the amber is right here. So I think I want the tree kind of growing up through this side. So that's just something to kind of keep in mind. And so I'm going to isolate these two root sections. And I'm going to join them. I can go ahead and let the stone settle. And twist them together a bit. And then also, this back root section can be coming around to join the front. So I'm going to twist this until it meets, because this one, you can see the twisting maybe comes all the way to the edge of the stone. So I want the twisting on this side to come up all the way to the edge of the stone as well. And honestly, this may end up being much more centered than what I originally planned, but that's fine too. So I'm going to take these two sections from the front and the back and start twisting them together. Not too snugly, because I do want some room for things to tighten down. Okay, so now that we have that side, I'm going to come to the other far end of our piece. So these two root sections, and then probably these three root sections off the back side. And everything else I'm just kind of pulling off to the side to get it as out of the way as we can. Okay, so these guys, I'm gonna bring them together here in the front, just like that. In hindsight, I'm kind of wishing I'd used silver wire, because that would have shown up more over the amber, but c'est la vie. And I'm just twisting these together until they come to the edge of our stone. And now I'm going to flip it over to the back side, and I'm going to twist these three together, like almost simultaneously. I guess I'm going to start with these two, this one and this one. I'm going to bring them in a little farther down. Twist, twist, twist. And it is such a beautiful day today, you guys. It smells like hyacinths, and I've got some incense burning, and just the windows are open, so it's like rain and spring smells, and just it's so nice. The birds are chirping. We just spent the weekend in Ohio, where it's still very much winter has not let go yet. So it's really nice to come home where spring is pretty much here. Okay, so I'm going to flip it over, pull all these branches forward to the front, get these branches out of the way. Fortunately, you don't need a whole lot of really tight, clean-looking wire to make trees. It's almost the more gnarled, the better. So if it gets kinked up, don't sweat it too much. Okay, so I've got my front section and my back section, and now I'm going to start twisting them together, trying to not accidentally snag up any of the other branches. 3, 4, 5, okay. So this is actually leading us to a pretty gnarly root ball. This is going to look pretty cool, you guys, I think. I hope. Okay, so now we only have these two sections on the front. So it makes sense that they will come together into a nice little tree shape, like the roots forking together. So twist, twist, trying to not have my hand in the way, twist, at least I'm in frame, twist, twist, twist. And I'm going to give myself actually a pretty liberal amount here, because I'm not just going to give myself enough to go to the edge. I'm going to be doing a lot of like twisting on this root section to give it a lot of character. So I want to make sure that I give myself enough space to do that. And I'm going to kind of get just the feel for that happening right there. Okay. Now we're going to flip around to the back, and here we have these 3 sections. So I'm going to twist these 2 together, the 2 closest to the point. And there's, honestly guys, there's no rhyme or reason to this. I'm just doing what I feel like. So if you're following along with this project, do what you feel like. And twisting them together. It's a lot of this motion. Once you get the hang of that, you've got this. See how that's kind of happening? And now that we've come out that far, I'm going to extend this one so that it'll meet it. Whenever I'm doing the root work of a tree, I just want to make sure that all the wire is twisted or textured in some way. I don't want a gap of untwisted wire between where 2 sections join. Because you can always twist twisted wire together and it's not going to look too off. But I don't want a gap of no patterning right there, if that makes sense. And that's my own preference too. I think it would give it a really vine-like look, maybe if you had just very minimal or loose twisting. Oh goodness, well now I'm looking at it and I really like it from this side better almost. Oh well. That's the point of it being reversible, I guess. So again, giving myself just a little bit more than what I think I'll need. And they're meeting up here at the top. Pulling them both to the front side. And crossing them. You know, this might just be a forest of, well, I don't know, I was thinking of 3 trees. That'd be cool. We will see how they come together. So I've got them brought together, front and back side of the stone. The stone seems very secure at this point. Okay, how are these guys marrying up? Okay, so I'm only going to twist a small section of the center trunk. I want to bring in, really extend myself out some on these sides. That way it'll be able to come in and meet. And this is where we ask ourselves, do we want a canopy like multiple trees? Which I think would be pretty cool. Because I had originally envisioned 1 tree, and then we had the idea for the 2 branching off in their different ways. Let's see how it goes with 1 tree. I'm going to stick this out. Like, stick with the plan-ish. Just because that's something that I don't normally do, so there's no telling what might happen. Okay, so now I'm going to have 1 come around the front side and 1 come around the back side of our tree here. And I think I might leave us a little bit of room. I don't know yet. Yeah, I'm going to leave us some room, definitely. And I'm getting the branches split off just half and half half one side, half the other. And twisting, trying to make sure we don't have any stragglers. Okay, and I don't want to come too far up because I do want to start having some really fun branching. Like, I want a lot of canopy because this is going to go possibly in a window or hang over a lamp or something. So I want to be able to have as much amber rich and amber dense canopy up at the top. So I think I'm going to go ahead and start branching it down. So now from here, I'm going to go ahead and branch off into, 5 or 6. What do you guys think? I don't know. So just kind of gently, as much as we can, pulling off a little chunk of wire. And again, you almost want to get it down to the roots. And what I mean by that is like down by right where it separates out from the main branching. That way we can keep it as tidy as we can down here at the base. Or maybe just 3 for some mirroring. I don't know. It never hurts to consider your options. And it might seem like you're waffling or wishy-washy or I don't know what, but this is art. You should, you can either let it happen if that's how you like to do it, or you could, overthink it if that's how you like to do it. It's like there's no right or wrong way to do this. Yeah, I just like the way 5 look. I really do. Okay, so we'll split this one in 2 just as best as we can. And you can kind of see how the wire ends up wanting to lay on its own anyways. Like, see how these guys are kind of splaying and separating out. So we'll figure it out. And there's that train. Okay, so now I'm going to twist these 2 together just a bit. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 little twists. And now there's splitting this one in half. Roughly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So sorry if my hands are in the way, you guys. I really want you to be able to see what I'm doing, but at the same time, it's kind of hard sometimes to have my hand be perfect. So, let's see. I don't know. It's not coming up for perfectly 5 at all, is it? 2, 3, 4, 5. So we'll split this one in 2. No, we won't. Okay. So it looks like we're ending up with 4. That's okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So that's where our canopy starts branching off into this multi-armed beast of a tree. Okay, so now I'm gonna come, I don't know why I like starting from this side and kind of working my way around. So this one's going to get split into 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, because why not? And then kind of divvied back together and set off to the side. This one's getting split into 2. This is one of our thicker branches for sure. So it looks like we have 4 wires and then 3 wires. Again, not real particular, but I do like to just point that out for you guys if you are particular. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then I'm going to do this one at 5, just because. I don't know why. I feel like it. Oh, it's a dense one. Okay. So you can start from the ends. It's almost like brushing tangles out of hair or fibers and just kind of getting them separated out. Sometimes you'll have one that just gets all boogery and it's like, okay, let's pull that out. So that's 3 and 3. This one has a nice split. And you could be very, you know, precise. And 4, 5. Make sure that all of them are perfectly even, or you could do it randomly, or just, no. 4 on that one. And 4 on that one. Honk. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, starting to get tangled up with the one next to me. 5. Damn, it. 6, 7. There we are. Now it's your turn, wire. 3 and 3. Pushing down to the base where the branches are forking. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And you can see that's really starting to give it, I think, a nice branched structure. Now this one, I think I'm going to branch off into 3 sections, maybe. Yeah, why not? So there's 1. This one's very tangly. 1, 2, 3, 4. If I can branch it off into sections of 4, that'd be awesome. Then 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's just about, I think, as perfect as we're gonna get. So let's do 5 on this end, and then separate out that wire. 4 on these 2. Okay. I like to have at least 2 to twist together at the end. I don't know why, it just makes me happy. So I think I'm going to twist these 2 together actually. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then split this one more or less in half. And 1, 2, 3, trying to not get tangled. 4, 5, 6, 7. So there we have some really nice, interesting branching patterns. And now from here, I guess I'll start at this side, again, just to be different. And let me get in here and hold it kind of right there. And go 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to go ahead and finish each branch as I get here. So I've done 3, and now I'm going to do, you'll also notice I'm pretty consistent about twisting in the same direction. The reason I do that is so it doesn't loosen any of the twisting before it, but you can experiment and see what you like. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Separate off. Now these guys are ready for, once I have them down to where they're individual strands, they are ready for their beads. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I want to give it a little bit of space because it's going to get really crowded in here, what with the beads joining in together. I like to do my smaller beads at the base of the branches and the larger leaves out towards the edge, just because it really gives you a lot more room to be able to not have tension on the beads. So I'm going to go through and do the rest of this step, doing like however much you feel until we get to the edge. but I'm going to go through and get them all paired off to where they're individual strands all the way around the canopy, and then I'll meet you guys right back here. Give you a good perspective of how that's looking. So this is how it's coming along. I'm on my last branch, and they're kind of you know, bunched together and stuff, but you can really see it's starting to get pretty decent spread going. I've got 3 for this branch. Let me zoom in for you. And 2 on this one. So what I'm doing is I'm just gonna twist this on down. And whenever I have only 3, I kind of keep one centralized and then twist the other 2 around it. And I like the way that that looks. And so I'm just going to do that, and then it's going to splay out into the 3. I don't know. Let me unwrap this one a little bit. See, it's never too late to change your mind, and I actually feel like it gives the branch a really nice texture whenever you kind of do it like that. So yeah, we'll do it like that. And so now coming in for this last 2 branch, and then we will start adding the beads, which makes me super happy. That's like my favorite part because it really comes together. Okay, lots of branches, lots of leaves are going to be happening up here. So what I'm actually going to do to try to make sure that everything can fit is I'm going to start adding the leaves, for lack of a better term, the you know, chip beads from the center and then building out. So now we need to think for just a little bit. I'm actually going to take this and pull it to the back, if that's doable, just to get all this wire out of the way. Yeah, so I'm just pulling it all through, which is a lot harder to do whenever you're using the 24 gauge wire, but just getting it twisted out of the way. There we go. And trying to contain it just a bit. It looks like it's like, whoa, really windy. So let's think about how we're gonna have it join at the top. We could have it be a little bit wider. And you know, I was gonna attach it all to this hoop, but I don't even know if I want that hoop in there anymore. I don't know, it does make it look like it's rising over like a moon or something. Oh boy. And honestly, this steel ring would give it a much more like structural presence. Crap. Also, something that we could do . Kind of like the way that looks even. Oh no. Vaughn, what are you doing? I don't know what I'm doing. So, oh gosh, that's beautiful. Ah, hey Randy, do you want to come look at this? It never hurts to get a second opinion of the people who care about you. Did you like that? Yeah. Because I had originally designed it that it would sit like with that kind of hidden. But I kind of, it's almost like those pictures that you see where it's a big old moon or something. Question now, though, is if I decide to do it like that, do I have the leaves go just to the edge of this? Or do I have them go to the edge of everything?
If you go to the edge of everything, you run the risk of hiding the loop.
Yeah. So you think I should just do it to the edge of the loop?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, okie dokie. Thank you, love. Can I have a kiss? I love you. Thank you. Alrighty. So yeah, and I do like that because it opens this up to much more of like a leaf shape. Now the only downside is it doesn't hug, oops, it doesn't hug the stone as much. So maybe if we opened it like that, there we go. Because I really wanted it to like butt up nicely against the stone. So now I'm going to just build all the foliage out to the edge of the ring, which I think I'm going to get that in time lapse. I'm going to do the first one with you guys, so I'm going to flip it face down, and I'm going to do the first branch with beads like the first leafy branch with like real time. And then I'm gonna put it into time lapse so that y'all can see kind of how things get built. So these are the chip beads that we use, and since I only have that one baggie of them, we have some options here. I could incorporate some seed beads, but this is a gift for a very good friend. So I really want it to be maybe a little bit extra special. So I'm going to open up this tray of beads, and you can see here I have some more amber beads. They're a little bit smaller. These might be a little too big. Oh, I got these really nice rainbow moonstone. I might could use those. That might clash with it though. Okay, so I thought I had some little like 2mm round amber. I think I'm all out though. So let me see if I don't have some small amber colored seed beads. So I'm gonna dig those out and I'll meet y'all right back here. So I couldn't decide. Here we have some really cute like size 11 copper lined clear seed beads that I think those look pretty cool. And then here I have some citrine mini chips in between, which again I think that looks pretty cool, but I really do just prefer the solid amber. So I think that is the one that I'm going to do. It just because, I mean, as much as I really like the citrine, because I love gemstones, I feel like that repetitive alternate pattern doesn't really happen very much in nature. And then with the glass seed beads, they're a little too small in between them, and they aren't really present anywhere else in the design. So I didn't really want to, you know, I don't know, just do them at the beginning. Let's see how that looks though. Maybe just having them there at the beginning, or maybe a seed bead and then the citrine. Okay, so opening this up. Getting the little branches separated out. I'm gonna straighten that so that some little, right, and that's, should take my own advice and start from the center. So here we go. So I'm just gonna pick one. Gotta start somewhere. May as well be on this branch. But whatever I decide to go with, I'm gonna try my best to be consistent with it. So I've picked a branch, and I'm gonna slide the seed bead down on there. Nope, I'm not going to do the seed bead. Changed my mind. Oh, you can't even see what I'm doing. Sorry, guys. So, just going to set these extra stones off to the side. So now, I'm going to try to be a little random with it. And I'm going to place like maybe 5 beads. Anywhere from 3 to 5. Onto our branches, and then let it come all the way down. You know, it actually looks like we're going to need significantly more than that if we're going to get it to the edge, which that's cool. That will work. 6, 7, oops. Where'd that hole go? 8? Nope. Is that the hole? There's the hole. There we go. Boop. And so now I'm just going to line this up with the top edge. Even then, that's not really coming out quite far enough. Oh boy. This is going to be, now also keep in mind it's going to be much more bead dense up here at the top than what it will be out here like on the sides. So 10, 11, It can be a little hard to find the holes sometimes. There we go. Okay, I'm going to cap it at 12. That'll just be where it sits. And so now, and I'm wrapping from the front to the back, so towards myself this time. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 rotations. I try to do at least 5 because whenever you start getting in there with your pliers and doing the like tightening down, you don't want it to slide, like to loosen too much. So 5 gives you a really nice cinch, and I'm actually going to be leaving this tail wire, if you can see, on there. That way, that will be the wire that I weave to attach this all to the edging. And it's just, I can always decide to cut it off later, but for now, I'm going to leave it. So then I just grab the next wire. And this is where I wanted to be very careful because these chip beads will come and rub shoulders against each other. And amber is a very soft stone. And I don't want to lose any beads. Any beads that I have like this that chip or break like irreparably, sometimes if it chips, I mean, it's a chip bead, I don't mind it too much, but if it like breaks at where it's been drilled through, then I will save the pieces, and I've got little canisters of broken beads that I like to suspend in resin when I'm doing my resin casting. Because it's still amber, it's still beautiful, it's just no longer what it originally was as far as being a bead goes. Okay, so now bring this guy around the top. We've got this one here. It's looking pretty good, and I'm going to wrap 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then cinch that down, tighten it up a bit. So yeah, I'm just gonna keep doing this, and you can see they don't rub shoulders too bad. And I think there's gonna be a lot of dimension happening with this piece too if it gets too crowded. So I'm really excited to see how this evolves. So I'm just gonna keep doing that. I'm gonna try to build out the sides evenly, if I can, because I don't want it to be too much on one side or too much on the other. I really wanted this more or less centered up, if I could stay in frame. So I'm going to keep doing that, hopefully with some time lapse going, and then I'll meet you all right back here once we've fully leafed out our tree. So we've gotten the entire canopy nice and leafed out, and I really love the way that this is looking, like so lush. Now, I want them to stay up a little ways. So to set it, kind of set the distance, I'm coming through and doing a very wide open weave around to the back, because again, this is kind of floppy. It's floppier than I want it to be. The ring is on the back side, and I could have planned ahead a little better and had, like, I don't know, an attachment point back here or something, but that doesn't always happen. So I'm just going to come through and secure the ring to the roots, and having some nice little bent nose pliers can really come in handy for that. Just kind of grabbing and pulling everything. And so I'm going to get this pretty secure. I'm just doing a few wraps in this one spot. Oops. And then I will do the same thing on the other side. And then I'll meet you all right back here for the next step. Okay, so we've gotten those two pieces joined together. It didn't really want to stay very well. So I'm going to get that wrapped down just a little bit more. And so I've wrapped it around the metal ring, but I didn't really want to stay. So now I'm cinching this tail down around the root, training it kind of back up, if that makes sense. There we are. Excellent. Okay, so now that's pretty secure. The next step is, how on earth are we gonna, it's like it's done. There, we did it. It's great. We've got to do something to tidy up these hot messes of wire that are just everywhere. So for now, I'm actually going to take them and press them down and kind of into the back of our work, because I'm not ready to cut them off just yet. I don't know how much of them I'm going to need, and I'd hate to cut them off and have to splice in a new piece of wire. So with the shape of this, I'd really like maybe, well, let's see. This one already has quite a bit of coiling going on it, so I wouldn't really mind it getting joined to, or like maybe a spiral. We've got to start somewhere, so let's start with a spiral and see how this evolves. So I'm taking my flush cutters, and I'm zooming in, and I'm going to trim about 1/4 of an inch or 1/2 centimeter. I save all these extra little scrap pieces just because I'm not a hoarder, you can't prove it. But no, they come in really handy for experimenting, or like little hammered clasps or anything like that. So I'm going to come and I'm going to take the tip of my pliers and place them as close to the tip of the wire as I can. And with this softer aluminum, you do want to be real careful that you don't just cinch your pliers down too hard, because it will bite into the wire. Let me zoom out. This is a big piece, so it's like not quite wrestling alligators, but close, as close as wire wrapping gets. There we go. Giving ourselves a nice little spiral to just sit right there, up at the top. I would really like to be able to take this bottom wire here and attach a lot of these top wires to it, if that makes sense. So I guess I could start with this one right here. Seems to be lining up pretty well. So we could just take this one and wrap around quite snug and just cinching it down because I want it nice and close up. We could actually even use our pliers to just get some rotations going. I'm hooking it around and sliding it down. Push that down with my fingernails. So now you can see how that's starting to happen. Just getting a few coils around. And now that it's short enough, I can just twist it this way. And then use my fingernails again to just push down. And now I'm going to use these bent nose pliers to tighten this. Okay. Push it in together. So there we are. And it is not as tidy as I want it to be, so I'm actually going to come in with my nylon jaw pliers, and it just grips much more at once. And that tightened everything down much more nicely. Much smoother. And so now I'm actually ready to, I'm going to skip this wire, because it's kind of short anyhow, and move on to the next one. And just start weaving around again. Just kind of next in row. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6. And again, I just want to get this cinched down, or wrapped rather. There we go, that's working out very nicely. Okay, and now that we have all that done, see if zooming in just a bit would help. And then pushing it in with my fingernails. And again, you can see we get these little like bumps and stuff. And that's where just grabbing it with my nylon jaw and twisting it can help to tighten all of that up. And now you can see there is a good bit of slack kind of in between. And I guess that's just going to have to be okay. That might get tightened down as we bring in our wires, like as we get in there and do the shaping. But now I'm going to move on to the next one. We should have one coming off of this guy. Yeah, that's real short though, like real short. You can see where it's ending right there. So then maybe this guy. Oh, that has enough for us to wrap with. And so I'm going to get that one in, and I'm going to grab it with my pliers because I want to bring this one just as nice and tight, snug together as I can. There we are. I'm just wrapping this around. And this is totally improv, like I don't have too much of a plan, I just want to see what happens. And on to the next one. Dun, dun, dun. Oh, that's a real nice little one. Okay, and now just again, wrapping around, trying to not tangle in these other core wires. And tightening down. It can really be a big help to use your pliers, just because it helps kind of get your hands out of the way a little bit. And the more you work with them, the more you'll build up your mind plier coordination or eye plier coordination. See, if you do it real loose, you'll get a real jumbly mess. But it's not the end of the world. What we can do is just come in and tighten it down. And you can do that by pulling on the wire, or you can do that by grabbing it like so and cinching around, and it just kind of tightens all of those little bumps and stuff. And now of course it's preferable to not get those little bumps, but it happens, and whenever it does, it's good to know that you have options for taking care of it. And the way to avoid getting bumps like that would be to do a tighter coil. And it's still a little jumbly for what I'd like, but this is what's happening. So now that we have that all smushed together, I can really come in and cinch and turn, and cinch and turn, and cinch and turn, and cinch and turn. And it can really take a hot minute, but you'll get there. Okay. So now you could totally take some, yeah, let's do the 26 gauge. And I'm just going to leave that on the spool, but I'm going to coil it around our 16 gauge core wire. Please pardon Randy's squeaky chair. I'm just going to grip it and throw some coils. Coiling, 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 coiling. There we are. Keeping it nice and tight as we go. And then you can see we just smush it down against the other stuff and it makes it look a little bit more blended. There we are. There we are. Keep on coiling. And sometimes I leave in real-time segments like this so that you guys can really get a solid idea of how long this does actually take. You know, it's all great if I can get it edited down, you know, an 8-hour project into like, you know, a 30-minute video. But it can be discouraging though if you're following along with that video and you're like, man, she did it so fast. It's like, no. I coiled every stinking coil too. I just put it into fast forward or did it off camera. So this stuff is time consuming, but I feel like the magic really comes to life in those details. And so now I'm going to coil this one in around to the other side as well. So again, just grabbing with my round nose pliers close to the tip of the pliers and as close to the tip of the wire as I can. And you can see here, it can help to orient your piece however you need it to be. Keep all these little scraggles of wire out of the way. And then after a certain point, you can just grab it with your fingers and start coiling it in. So we can actually cover up a lot of the work that we just did to like structurally join things together to get it to be a little bit more decorative. Now I really want this to be able to sit, like I'm trying to figure out how it's going to sit. So I guess we should have it be to where the trunk is centered. So I guess like right here would be a good middle, because we're going to need to start establishing that so that we can build around it that way. So now I need to get this side joined to this one, like this side of the weaving joined to the center ring, and I will do that with some of this wire that we have. So let's see, picking through, trying to find a nice long piece that we can take advantage of in the right spot. And here we are, we've got this one. And I'm actually just going to start coiling around this long piece. I don't want to tangle up around any of the other stuff, like any of the other little tails of wire. So I'm just gonna grab it with my nylon jaw pliers and pull it down so that it tries to cinch. And so now I'm going to go through and I'm going to do the same to this side as I did to the other. And then I'm going to do some decorative weaving and coiling on these other pieces, and I'll show you all of that whenever we get back. So yeah. So here I have completed the decorative swirling and things all over the top portion. I didn't catch it on camera because I got a little carried away, but it's very similar in concept to work that I've done in other tutorials where I go into much greater detail, but it's basically, and I know that especially if you're starting out or you don't do a whole lot of coiling and weaving, basically is such a, like, what? But I really did just kind of coil stuff and then spiral it together and be like, yay, it's pretty, and kind of go from there. So now the next step though, and I did make this little loop up here at the top that's secured through, that the whole thing can hang from. But the next step is to start doing the decorative twisting. Not twisting, but like taking the pliers as so, and kind of bending and cranking things along. That way it gives it some nice shape. You want to be careful though, because this amber is so soft. Like such a soft and delicate stone. You really don't want to mar it up too much if you can help it. So just getting those pliers in there and then twisting just like that. I feel like really gives it a lot of character. So now you can see how that is. And I'm going to flip it over and then just kind of bend in different ways. And the more you do this, the more you'll get the hang of kind of how you like the way that it looks. And just twisting. And I'm really just doing this to cinch everything down nice and tight. But I feel like it gives it a really, like, irregular look, and I like that. And so you can take the trunk and give it a little bit of a torque. You can have your plier nose be quite far apart, or you could have it be much closer together. Again, that's entirely your own preference. So now I'm going to go through and capture some time lapse for y'all of me kind of doing that texture on all the branches here. And again, I've left all of these as long as I can. That way I don't have any risk of, if I had trimmed it off and only did like, you know, 1 or 2 wraps around the edge, and then I twisted it, it would, you know, pull the wire in and possibly unravel it. So let's do that. So now I've done all the texturing in the branches, and I'm really pleased with how they've come out. You can kind of squish and distribute. I really like the lush, dense foliage of this tree. Foliage? I don't know how to pronounce words. But I really like the way that looks, but you can kind of squish and redistribute it. But now I'm going to be coming through and pulling all of this wire kind of tight and just trimming flush to the edge, just as flush as I can, because the idea here now is we'll be able to come through with the bent nose pliers and smush in any little pokey outy bits, any snags, I guess would be a better word for it. But also something, and I normally would never say this because I don't think even on something that's a big project like this, where you can skim over some of the finer details, but worst case scenario, this isn't going to be worn, or I don't know, you know, maybe it might be. Better not risk it. But if it's something that you're making for yourself and you know for like a fact it is not going to be worn, you kind of don't even have to worry about these little pokey bits being perfectly flush. But I just feel like, you know, we've already put this much time and effort and energy and materials into a piece. We may as well make it just our best work that we can. I don't see any reason to cut corners. But there we go. So that trimmed down really nicely. And then all of this stuff, you can save it. If you have a recycling company, you can actually save up even your enameled copper. You'll get less per pound for it, but I have just shoe boxes of scrap wire that I save up and take to the recycling company. I'm going to go through and using my bent nose pliers, just kind of smush it down to keep it from poking out. You could also, something that works wonderfully for small bits like this, is you can actually use a rubber tip tool, like how you would use in clay, and you can just come through and kind of pet it down. That does a really great job of just, especially on this thinner wire, of just shaping it around. Now you want to be careful that you don't like tear up the tip of your tool, but I kind of use this tool specifically for this, so I'm not too worried about if it gets textured. But just keep in mind that if you tear it up, it's going to translate that texture onto your clay work. I'm just coming around that full border. There we are. And just like that, it's all done. Now this, you could add some chainmail or some bead links or just some mechanized chain. I'm going to leave it just as it is for it to hook onto a suction cup onto a window or a nail on a wall. Just whatever you think you might end up doing. But I'm so excited and just pleased with how this piece came out. So Jim, if you're watching this, I really hope you enjoy this tree. Thank you so much for everything that you've done for Randy and I and our friends. Like, you've been really a true blessing to us, so thank you. And this is for you, man. Hey guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me. I hope this tutorial was helpful to you. If you have any questions, comments, or ideas, please leave them down below. And then you can also contact me on any of my social media. The links will be down below. This is, I really feel honored to have gotten to make this for my friend Jim. And to get to make these tutorials daily for y'all to hopefully, you know, get your creative juices flowing or pique your interest in a new hobby or, you know, just whatever you might take from it. Thank you for coming and watching, because I really enjoy getting to make these videos. And if you'd like to support the creation of more of them, please consider joining me on Patreon, or just liking and subscribing, or maybe telling your friends, or just picking up some pliers and trying something new. That would be great. So thank you guys so much again for everything. So until next time, happy crafting, and I'll see you around. Bye!